So, hey guys, today we're going to be looking at Shining Sarcophagus, and I think honestly, Shining Sarcophagus is a good card, just straight up. But if we look at the entirety, like just the archetype, the archetype, no, the archetype's not good. So if we were playing Shining Sark here, it's just not that great. So let's go over all of the best Shining Sark cards real quick. So Gandora G, the Dragon of Destruction, is simultaneously a good card and a bad card at the same time. So what's good about Gandora G, the Dragon of Destruction here, is that if we control Shining Sarcophagus, we can special summon this card from our hand, and there's also the effect of you can pay half your life points to destroy as many other cards on the field as possible, and if you do, banish them. Then special summon one level 7 or lower monster that mentions Shining Sarcophagus from your deck and increase the level by the number of cards destroyed by this effect. So the level modulation effect here only matters specifically if you were going to special summon either Silent Swordsman 0 or Silent Magician 0. Otherwise, it doesn't really do anything for you. Maybe if you need to level modulate to make, I don't know. Let's see, with Archfiend's Advent, if we destroyed 2 cards, we can get this to level 12 to make Zeus or something. Like, yeah, surely that matters. But, alright. That aside, with the Shining Sark cards here, we also have a Spell Negate, not Spell Trap Negate, Spell Negate with Silent Magician 0. Then with Silent Swordsman 0, we have a Targeted Negate, but this only works on when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets Shining Sarcophagus or a monster that mentions it. So it doesn't just blanket protect you from just targeted stuff. It doesn't do that. So that's a shame, I guess. And then we have a bunch of spells and traps that are useful for some different things, I guess. So Future Silence, I would say not like that insane, but Turn Silence is going to just be a monster negate. And then if your monster that mentions Shining Sarcophagus battles, you can banish this card from your graveyard and the battle phase, well, more or less immediately, and it happens in damage calc, so it's a little harder to negate unless you have specifically negate activation. You're not going to be able to deal with Turn Silence's graveyard effect. And then we have Dark Magician, the Magician of Black Magic. So essentially what this guy does is the same effect as Gandora, being able to special summon this card from your hand if you control Shining Sark. And then this specifically has the effect of if this card is destroyed by a card effect and a level 5 or higher monster is on the field, you can special summon this card, then you can set one spell trap from your deck that mentions Dark Magician. So this effect, honestly, I think is pretty garbage. So the targets that you have for Dark Magician, the Magician of Black Magic here, you don't really have many good targets, honestly. So the 2 targets I've seen being used in conjunction with Shining Sark are Distant Rivals, which is going to be able to negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls, but honestly, this is more or less just an infinite impermanence, so not really that cracked. And then we have let's see, we have, I guess, Secrets of Secrets of Dark Magic, which allows you to perform a fusion or ritual summon, which isn't that useful. So that doesn't do a whole lot for you. And also, to actually trigger the search with Dark Magician, the Magician of Black Magic, you need to have Dark Magician, the Magician of Black Magic in hand, Shining Sark on field, and Gandora G to pop the Dark Magician, the Magician of Black Magic here, which honestly just sucks. So this is a 2-card combo which requires multiple arguably really bad garnets, being I guess Gandora G and Dark Magician, the Magician of Black Magic. For what payoff? Barely any payoff. That's what payoff you have. So the only situation where this would be nice to have might be if you had like Future Silence plus Shining Sark, So picture this, we have Shining Sark, Future Silence, so I can Future Silence, grab Dark Magician, and then I will use Shining Sark to grab Gandora G. I will summon both, Gandora G effect. Then Gandora G effect will destroy the Dark Magician, it will special summon itself back, setting a card, and then I will special summon Try Gadget, which just searches any spell trap that mentions Shining Sark or Shining Sark. So we can do that, and then add Ties That Bind, which allows us to special summon 2 monsters with different names that are level 4 or lower, I believe, that mention Shining Sarcophagus. So we can do that to summon Silent Swordsman 0 and Silent Magician 0. And then we have like an extra negate with Dark Magician, the Magician of Black Magic, and then we have Gandora G also there. But actually, wait, let me count real quick to make sure that this is right. Zones matter, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that just uses up every single zone we have. But I mean, that's fine, honestly. That's not that problematic. And what we end on is, of course, Destined Rifles with Silent Swordsman 0 and Silent Magician 0. But hear me out. What if we just didn't play Dark Magician here or Destined Rivals, because these guys are more or less garnets for one interaction once? Like, keep in mind, if we really want to get mileage out of this, we would need multiple targets, and then we would need to keep popping this. But this wipes our own board as well, so it's like, yeah, no thanks, I guess. So, alright. I don't know if we can protect ourselves with the effect of the Dark Magic Mirror Force either. Gotta check this real quick. When an opponent's monster declares an attack or opponent's monster effect is activated that would destroy a monster or monsters on the field. Yeah, that does not that does not work. We can't use Dark Magic Mirror Force to protect ourselves from our own Gandora, unfortunately, as it seems. So that sucks, I guess. Well, all right. So the best card, I think, is honestly just going to be a few of these cards, not all of them. So a few more to go. Arcfiend's Advent. While you control Shining Sarcophagus, you normal summon this card without attributing. Other monsters you control gain 500 attack during your turn only. If this card is normal or special summon, you can target one monster your opponent controls. Take control of it until then phase, but that monster cannot attack unless you controlled Shining Sarcophagus when this effect was activated. So we can use Arcfiend's Advent as like a kind of mind control, you know, something like that. That works. I guess it's this effect kind of useful, but the card itself, of course, is a major brick, which sucks. And then we have more Marshmelon. While you control Shining Sarcophagus, this card cannot be destroyed by battle. Also, your opponent's monsters cannot target monsters for attacks except for this one. You can only use each of the following effects of more Marshmelon once per turn. During your opponent's turn, if you control Shining Sarc, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. So probably best to do this during the battle phase, I guess, to play around talents and stuff. If this card is destroyed by a card effect, you can special summon one more Marshmelon from your hand, deck, graveyard, or banishment, except this card, and if you do, inflict 1000 damage to your opponent. So if your opponent's only way to remove more Marshmelon is destruction, then having two more Marshmelons would be a really annoying loop, where you would just summon more Marshmelon, and then more Marshmelon would summon more Marshmelon, and then you kind of have to deal with that, I guess. So that could be moderately annoying, but you know, we do have SP Lil Knight to remove more Marshmelon, and if you were to chain Silent Zero Swordsman to SP, then SP just triggers again and targets more Marshmelon with the banish once again. So yeah, not the best card, I would argue. And we briefly kind of glossed over it, but Dark Magic Mirror Force is just like a Mirror Force, but it also works if you would attempt destruction on your opponent's monster. That's about it. That summarizes it pretty neatly, I guess. So yeah, Shining Sark also has, let's see, ties that bind. Just go check this real quick. Yeah, alright. Forgot to mention this also locks you out of the extra deck. But yeah, primary line, I guess, if you would call it that, is we would go Gadget Trio. If we start Gadget Trio, we can go Gadget Trio to add Shining Sark. Shining Sark adds ties that bind, you activate that, and then you pass your turn on some targeting protection and some spell trap, or not spell trap, a spell negate. And that's it. If we start Shining Star, we can add Gadget Trio. If we have Gadget Trio, we add Shining Star. It's all the same and ends on about the same thing, right? Most notably, that these are both 1 cards, and we also have Future Silence, which is able to search for a Gadget Trio, which then searches for Shining Sark, which gets you to Ties That Bind. So technically, you have 9 starters to get to this board, and that kind of works. And I think it's better not to run Dark Magician and run something like an Imperm instead, or an Effect Veiler even. Just some sort of hand trap is probably better. Getting 2 extra slots for like just hand traps if we remove these guys, I think that's going to be a little bit better. And it's not like it doesn't have good grind or anything. So Dark Magician, the Magician of Black Magic, is going to be just used for a stronger turn 1 play, but you don't really need it because hand traps kind of same type of advantage you get from resolving Dark Magician here. So yeah, really not necessary. But alright. What makes me think that these cards are good? Well, if we go to Shining Sarcophagus, this cannot be destroyed by monster effects, so it cannot be destroyed by Gandora G here. And this allows for quite a bit of shenanigans in general. So if we just play Shining Sarcophagus Pier, it's not that great, but let's do a little bit of reduction. So let's get rid of Future Silence here. And then maybe we play, I don't know, 2 copies, 1 or 2 copies of Turn Silence. And then we have, well, let's cut Gadget Trio as well. And now we just have 2 copies of Gandora G, Shining Sarcophagus, and a couple copies of Turn Silence. So this is not going to be super consistent, so we might want to cut Turn Silence entirely. But alright. If we just open a Shining Sarcophagus now, this allows us to search any card that mentions Shining Sarcophagus. So we can add Gandora G, the Dragon of Destruction. Now, why is this so good? Well, the annoying thing is, of course, that we must summon a card from the deck that mentions Shining Sarcophagus, but we can get that sorted and figure that out later. But I think the best target here in this case is going to be probably the Silent Magician 0. And we're just going to assume we are not going to draw this. But alright. If we go Shining Sark and then special summon Gandora G, this in of itself already, if we don't want to be playing the Silent Magician 0, is going to just be an extra body. And the effect here to destroy everything is Ignition. So if our opponent has removal, they would need to shotgun this. And they might feel very inclined to do so because, of course, this is a full board wipe. Depending on what our opponent has exactly, Gandora G might like just obliterate their deck. So yeah, that's a thing worth considering. But yeah, Silent Magician 0 would also be a spell negate because we do in fact control Shining Sark. Downside to this, of course, is that we have to open Shining Sark. But if we just play Gandora G and Shining Sark, we can just simply special summon Gandora G and this does not lock us or anything. It's just a guy. And when would this be useful? Dragon Link, mostly, right? So if we just special summon Gandora G, this is just going to be a dragon on our field that we can use for things. If we wanted an extra body, we could just run it as well, and it's just 2 bodies for us to do something with. It's not going to be something like insanely amazing, but uh, it gets us places, I suppose, if we do have turn silence as well. So if we're running turn silence with Shining Sark and Gandora G, if we open Gandora G plus the Shining Sark, or turn silence plus the Shining Sark, we can have a monster negate to kind of insulate our plays here. So we can target one face-up monster we control, increase its level by 3. If you activate this card in response to your opponent's monster effect activation while you control Shining Sarcophagus and a monster that mentions it, negate that opponent's effect. So this can be used to just negate a hand trap, pretty simply put, right? And that's not entirely bad, actually, right? So if we just play Shining Sark, we would have to hard open Shining Sark, which isn't the worst thing, not the best thing, but you know, it's still fine. There's also the idea of the Gandora G, and the actual removal effect on this is actually pretty good. If we just disregard for a second the few garnets we may have to run, if we resolve Gandora G, this is going to be a full board wipe on our opponent, and we get to keep Gandora G, get one body, and this is just essentially a Raigeki with garnets. So in the future, in some meta, if this deck actually gets some support, this could be actually kind of a meta card, not necessarily a meta deck. You might like use this as like part of another engine or with another engine. I don't think this would be the primary thing we're playing, but yeah, it actually does somewhat have that potential. So let's say, for example, if I am playing Tenpai, I can special summon Gandora G with Shining Sark, and then resolve Gandora G, and my opponent, depending on exactly what they're playing, they might not have a good response to this. I can use this to, well, I guess it's also worth mentioning that Gandora G removes not just monsters, but also spells and traps. So uniquely, this is one of the few cards that can do that, and the way it removes it is really good, right? So if we are against Labyrinth, for example, if we activate this and our opponent has big welcome set for whatever reason, and they don't just chain it to out Gandora G, well, it doesn't matter. It's just the basic idea here. Maybe it's Paleo instead. The cards on the field are not just going to simply be removed, like transaction rollback and stuff. They will be destroyed and banished. So the back row being banished means that if they have any graveyard effects, they won't be able to trigger. Same thing with monsters. So this is actually better than a Raigeki and better than a Duster in the sense that not only does it destroy, it also banishes. Not only does it destroy monsters, it destroys spells and traps. So this is a pretty crazy kind of board wipe. The only downside to this card, honestly, I think, is that it's not a trigger on the effect to destroy to an extent. That kind of sucks. If it was on summon, this card would be a little bit better for certain reasons. Like we could then Forbidden Droplet, send Gandora G for cost, and that would be pretty gnarly, pretty disgusting even. And yeah, that's just a good effect in general. So of course this still needs to be paired with hand traps, but if we were against Yubel, for example, and we're able to get Gandora G out, it's pretty nice. We can kind of deal with the Phantom, we can deal with Nightmare Pain using Gandora G. There is like a bit of a risk here with the fact that we have to pay half our life points, but keeping in mind this doesn't even require our normal summon. If we bait out like certain effects, then we can just board wipe our opponent as well. So pretty nasty here, the amount of interruptions Shining Sark can tank for us. Kind of forgot about this effect, forgot to mention this, but Shining Sark also has the effect of if your opponent special summons a monster from the graveyard, except during the damage step, you can discard one spell, the target one of those monsters, send it to the graveyard. So this effect is honestly just Mad Garbage, you have to discard specifically a spell, not just any card, and then it's only if your opponent special summons a monster from the graveyard. And it also does not negate the fact it sends it back to the graveyard after it gets special summoned. So if it has a trigger effect, Shining Sark would allow the trigger effect to happen. So yeah, that sucks. But yeah, I think Gandora G is pretty gnarly. And there's a good amount of potential in these Shining Sark cards. So if we're looking at the easiest thing we could do here with Shining Sark is we can use it to special summon Gandora G. So this is able to be just a level 8 guy. So maybe we're doing a level 8 XZ summon, and that would be fine. Or we can use this as a dragon for like Dragon Link, for example. So this could be one of the two guys for the Romulus to grab the Ravine. And that's just one idea, right? And then we have one more thing, right? Let's see. Right, we can also grab Silent Magician 0 with the Gandora G as well. So we have a spell negate. So a really nasty combo, I guess, is if we were to drop like Dark Ruler No More or Forbidden Droplet and combine that with Gandora G effect to wipe our opponent's whole board. And it's not really like respondable, no real counterplay. And then we could play mostly for free, and we get to keep the Gandora G for the next turn as well. So that's just pretty nasty, I guess. But here's an idea, I guess, with what we could do if we were focusing on just like the top end of what I guess Shining Sark could do. So we're not going to be able to just open a perfect hand every time, but let's assume maybe we're playing Orcus paired with the Shining Sark cards. So the reason I would want personally to have the Orcus cards is so we can have access to Dingirsu, which has the effect of you can only wrong effect. If a card you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can detach one material from this card instead. If this card is special summon, you can activate one of these effects. Send one card your opponent controls to the graveyard, attach one of your banished machine monsters to this card as material. So we have this, and then I have to check one other card to see if this is a potential play. So Goblin's Crazy Beast. If a monster you control would be destroyed by card effect, you can detach one material from this card instead. So this only protects monsters. Dingirsu protects your back row as well. So I guess we would prefer Dingirsu. And then we grab Bestials. So it wouldn't be necessarily super easy to get this set up, but alright, let's just assume we are set up. So if we have access to Bestial Magnuma and Branded Regained, we can shuffle back our copies of our Silent Magician 0. We can also shuffle back our copies of Gandora G, the Dragon of Destruction, or we can add them from directly the graveyard to our hand with the effect of Bestial Magnuma. And we can kind of loop Bestial Magnuma with Branded Regained to keep just summoning our Bestials over and over again every time our opponent performs any type of summon, essentially. So we can do that, and then that allows us to essentially loop Gandora G. So that means more or less every single turn we're going to be able to resolve the effect of Gandora G, and we're going to be able to wipe the board, right? And with Dingirsu here, we can protect our guys. So I don't know the exact ruling on this, so we're a little dicey on this, but let's say I control 5 guys plus Gandora G among those 5 guys. If I activate this, and then I protect with Dingirsu, I can't summon the level 7 or lower monster that mentions Shining Sark. But can I still activate the effect to begin with if I control 5 guys or not? I know the guy can definitely not be summoned if I protect with Dingirsu though. So if that is the case, can I keep Silent Magician 0 in my deck to just keep resolving Gandora G on the field every single turn to kind of board wipe my opponent? That is kind of just a question mark moment, you know? Not 100% sure on this, but yeah, we'll just assume for the time being that you can. So if we're able to do so, we have the effect here to keep recycling all our components to resolve Gandorji's effect to board wipe, and then we can protect ourselves from the board wipe. This can also special summon back a Gandorji, I believe, right? Yeah, if we banish Gandorji, we can summon it with Dispatter. We can also summon back the Silent Magician 0 with the Dispatter if necessary. So that's pretty gnarly, I guess. And in this case, if we want to make Dispatter, we can use Girsu, because Girsu can sometimes become a tuner. So a lot of random little synergies here. And we also can do some recycling with our Orcus cards. So we can't recycle like the spells and traps, but this would be a nasty little loop right here. And Viscerals are hand traps as well, so that's like a deck build that you could potentially do. So right now we don't have the Orcus support. I haven't fully really looked at it, but maybe there's some potential in playing like Orcus with Shining Sark. Not 100% certain, but yeah. This essentially just works for, I guess, some reason. So yeah, Shining Sark. Maybe this is not like the most insane thing necessarily right now, but it has actual applications that you could use with other decks just in general. And I think the fact that Gandorji not requiring your normal summon has a lot of potential as well. So another idea we could do is, for example, we could Lava Golem our opponent and then use Shining Sark, special summon Gandorji, wipe out our opponent's board. We can also pair this with Red Reboot. Red Reboot, not really problematic because, you know, we're going to wipe out their set, and in fact, we're going to banish it as well. So yeah, Shining Sark and Gandorji, both of these cards being completely generic and only requiring you to run like Shining Sark and like 1 or 2 Garnets, it's not that bad, honestly. For the potential value you can get off of it, I guess, pretty high potential. Now it's just a matter of if we can get access to Shining Sark or not. If we're able to actually afford giving up perhaps our normal summon for the Tri-Gadget, that's one way we can get into Shining Sark, and that could be really good, I suppose. If we're able to do that, we could even do something like, well, quite a few kind of interesting things, I guess. I don't think there's a Link 1 machine, is there? That can link off the Tri-Gadget? Yeah, I don't think so. Too much attack for the Almirage and stuff. So, yeah. I think that's about it, right? So, unfortunately, the Silent Magician, or not Silent Magician, Silent Swordsman 0, that only protects targeting on specifically the Shining Star cards. If not, we could have used that to deal with like Imperm or Valor to kind of insulate our plays. So imagine this, we activate Shining Sark, Gandora G effect, then summon a guy, and this can tank Ash Blossom for us. This can tank, I guess, Imperm for us, and then we're insulated from Imperm as well. We potentially have that going for us. If we have Turn Silence with the package, depending on like the size of the package we're running, we can use this to be a monster negate, so interaction for next turn, or insulation against hand traps. So that's pretty nice, potentially. But I mean, this is just potential that the deck has. It's kind of hard to kind of use all of this like super well. Shining Sark being at just 3 copies and then needing to either Future Silence for Gadget or Normal Summon Gadget as your other access point into Shining Sark. I mean, if we could kind of actually utilize our special summon mechanics more, I think this has a lot more potential to be actually playable this way. If we want to keep, well, we can't. We have to kind of keep the Shining Sark, which is a little bit annoying. So if we want the negate on time Magician 0, it does require you to control a Shining Sark. So that is also a little bit annoying, but for the most part, these cards aren't like actually completely useless garbage, and they're somewhat able to be played generically. So but we'll just say that the deck has potential and leave it at that for now. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.